I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 233, Attraction. All right, my ladies, I am so excited to be talking to you guys today. I want to talk to you guys today about attraction. This is a topic that I've been thinking about a ton recently. I am teaching a masterclass inside my program this month, November 18th to the 21st. And as I have been doing that, as I've been thinking about it and preparing for it, I have just been consumed with and consuming all this material, studying and working on what it is that I'm going to be teaching in that class. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a taste of what we're going to be talking about in that class. And I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory as to why I'm doing this. I talked about it on the episode last week. But if you want to come join me for that class, I'll put the link in the show notes so that you can sign up. You can join for the whole week, just for $149, or you can join my program and get in for free. This is a topic that I have been wrestling with, especially over the last couple of years. So, as you guys know, my husband was addicted to pornography. So, obviously, he was attracted to other women and online, right? And in his consumption of pornography. But after he got past his pornography addiction, about 2 years ago, he came to me and kind of disclosed that he had actually been struggling with feeling attraction toward other women in our lives, in our sphere, in our group, in our world, real women that he'd interacted with. And that brought up a whole different set of thoughts and concepts. And so we've kind of just over the last 2 years, as we worked through that together and what that looked like in our marriage and how that affected us, it's something that I've been kind of giving information to my clients about, kind of been sharing a little bit of that journey, but it's something that I wanted to make available to all of you as to what has come up, what I've learned, what I've studied about it, and how that can relate to you and help you. I know there are so many of you who struggle feeling attracted to your spouse because he's watching pornography. Or maybe it's that you're still attracted to him, but he's attracted to other women. So now where does that leave you? Or how do you navigate attraction in your marriage? And maybe you're at a space or a phase where you feel more like roommates than you feel like husband and wife, or like you're missing that connection that you used to have physically or otherwise, and you don't know what to do about it. Then this class is for you. I'm going to talk about this today. Today, I'm going to cover some of the most common lies that we believe as a society that have been perpetuated about attraction and how that's affecting us. And then we're going to do this even deeper in the masterclass. So if you guys are ready, we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive in. Okay. So I want to go over, I just made a list of 6 of the most common lies that we believe about attraction. So first of all, let's start with what attraction actually is. Like if you are going to define it, what is attraction? Now, most of us would say that it is a feeling, right? I feel attracted to someone. Okay. Now, because you guys have been listening to this podcast and you're not brand new, where do your feelings come from? What creates your feelings? Your thoughts. Attraction, you might feel physically attracted to someone, but my definition of attraction is that attraction is a choice. Okay, stay with me. Again, remember that your thoughts are what create your feelings. So if you are feeling physically attracted to somebody, it is because of a thought that you are choosing to think. Now, whether you are choosing that subconsciously or consciously is entirely up to you. Now, I know that there are so many of you that are like, no, absolutely not. It just happens. Okay, let me give you guys a for instance that I know all of you guys have been there for. And I'm going to prove my point. Okay, here it is. Have you guys ever been in the mood and you're like totally turned on by your husband, and then he makes some kind of comment that rubs you the wrong way, and immediately it's like, nope, zip, I got nothing going on physically. It has completely killed the mood. I am now mad. I am now angry. I am now frustrated, and I am not interested in him having touched me with a 10-foot pole. That is proving my point. It's our thoughts that create our feelings. If it were just something that happened automatically and we had no control over it, then it would still continue in that moment. Then him saying whatever stupid comment that he said wouldn't affect us at all. But our thoughts are what create our feelings. So if we have a thought about what he said, then that's going to change and affect how we respond to him physically. Okay, another example. Have you ever thought that a guy was attractive and then found out that he was really rude or that he was gay or that he was somebody who, stole cars. You find out something negative about him or something that is not what you're interested in, and immediately he tells some kind of off-color joke, and you're like, yeah, he's not as cute as I thought he was. That's because it's our thoughts that create our feelings. Feeling attracted to somebody is a choice that you make with the thoughts that you choose to think. You choose to think that you're attracted to him. You choose to think that he's attractive, that he's good looking. This is how somebody can get more attractive to you over time, right? This is how, if you have somebody who maybe initially upon interacting, they weren't necessarily somebody that was super attractive to you, but then the more you got to know them, the more you found out they were kind and sweet and sensitive and they helped you and you loved all of that. And then you started having really nice thoughts about them. And then they all of a sudden became more attractive. That's because your thoughts create your feelings, and attraction is a choice. And that's going to be the definition that we use today as we go over what I think are some of the most common lies that we hear about attraction. Okay. So, lie number one, and this is the biggest one, we're going to dive into this a ton in this masterclass, is that it's out of your control, that attraction is out of your control, that it just happens, it's biological, you're born this way, you can't help it, there's nothing you can do about it. And that's not true. Now, a lot of people use this, and this was something that I ran into with my husband as we first initially started going through this. He was like, he was taught growing up that he, as a guy, is just going to be attracted to lots of women. And that's just how guys are. Maybe you guys have heard this. I've heard many, many clients tell me this, that they've been told, well, guys are just that way. They're more visual. They're just always going to be looking. They're just always going to be attracted to other people. And when my husband told me this, I just had a hard resistance to it because I know that your thoughts create your feelings. And so I said, this isn't just biological. We're not just, yes, we are wired to be attracted to others, but it's not something that's out of our control. We can control it. And that is one of the biggest lies and disservices that I think that we face. And so in my marriage, it came up with in for my husband as he was attracted to lots of women, and that was just how he was wired, and that there was nothing he could do about it. And it was a process of lots of coaching, figuring out what was underneath and how he was using attraction as a buffer, which again, we'll go into in this class, in order to not feel his feelings. And when we were able to work through that, that's when he was able to come out on the other side and change his thoughts about attraction, change the direction of how he thinks about women, about men, about how he behaves. Okay. And now I'm not going to go into why we all believe this, but that's the biggest lie number one. Okay. Lie number two is that attraction is all or nothing. Ladies, attraction is not all or nothing. It's sometimes we think of it, or we're taught in our society, that's either you're attracted to them or you're not. It's either black or it's white. It's either all or it's nothing. And I want to offer that that's not true. You can find some things that are unattractive and some things that are still attractive. And it's really helpful to differentiate this. This is kind of in the same way that I talk about trust. We believe one of the lies about trust is that trust is all or nothing, but that's not true. You can trust your husband to provide for your family and not trust him to not watch porn if you're gone for the weekend, right? You can find some things unattractive about your spouse and find other things attractive. And when you create the space for both, that is when you're actually able to start moving forward. But sometimes when we take that little bit of, oh, I think this is unattractive, then we make it bigger than it actually is. Then we think that, oh my gosh, if I find this thing that about him unattractive, that must mean I find him unattractive as a whole. And if that's true, then what does it mean? Okay. That's the problem when we believe that lie in our marriage. Okay. Lie number three about attraction is that physical standards must be matched in order to be attractive, right? You have to look a certain way in order to be attractive. Now, we all know that this isn't true intellectually because we're all attracted to different people, right? Have you ever met someone and you're like, her husband must find her attractive, or she must find her husband attractive, but I don't think he's attractive, or I don't think she's attractive. right? You're not meaning to be demeaning, but it's just like we're all attracted to different people, right? But I also want to offer that if it were true that there were just some physical standards that were more attractive than others, then it would be true that those would have been the same over time, and yet they have changed. Like, think about the 90s and the supermodels of the 90s, right? They were very, very thin. It was like twiggy, very, very skinny, tall, very flat chested, right? It was not the Kim Kardashian, right? Curvaceousness that is seen as attractive now, right? And if you even think about, in the 1500s, if you had soft, pale skin was very attractive. And if you had a little bit of weight on you, that was attractive because it meant that you were wealthy. The standards of beauty and attractiveness have changed over time. And one of the biggest lies that we kind of, especially as women, we subconsciously kind of harbor is this idea that there's some kind of objective measure of attractiveness. And if we could just attain it, then we would be attractive. And I know that this comes up so often with my clients when they have a spouse struggling with pornography, is they think if I could just become whatever I think he finds attractive, then maybe he'd stop. And of course, this comes from a disbelief, a misbelief, believing a lie that their physical attractiveness and their sexuality has something to do with their husband watching porn. And that's not true. Your husband is not watching porn because of how you look or the way that your body is shaped or how much you weigh. And yet, when we have this idea of there must be some standard of attractiveness and I'm not matching it, that's when we get ourselves in trouble. That's when we will find ourselves comparing ourselves, even just in our mind, to what we think our husband is watching, or what we know our husband is watching, or what we think our husband is attracted to. And we will always find ourselves coming up short because we're using this very subjective measure of attractiveness. And it's fascinating as I've coached my clients over and over again. Every single one of us, every single one of them has had a different definition of what that measure of attractiveness is, right? It's like this client might think it's having bigger boobs and a bigger butt and weighing less. And another client might want her boobs to be smaller and might want to be taller and might wish that she had longer hair, while this one wishes she had shorter hair. Whatever it is, we all have our own definition. This one wants paler skin. This one wants to be more tan. All of us have this subjective, kind of subconscious ideal of attractiveness that we're working from. And as long as we're comparing ourselves to that and thinking that we have to attain that in order to be attractive, we will always come up short. And this is where you're always going to feel negative in your relationship. Okay. Line number 4 is that once you find your partner, your spouse unattractive, that's it. It never goes back, right? I talked about this a little bit earlier, right? Kind of feeling that like attractiveness is all or nothing. If you believe that attractiveness is all or nothing, then you will assume that if you see some things in your spouse, if you start thinking of your spouse and the things that he's doing or looking like or behaving in a way that is unattractive, that's it, that your marriage is doomed. You can't come back from it. It's like you can only go from unattractive to attractive and not the other way around, right? Kind of like how I talked about before is you might find somebody not initially super attractive and then you get to know them and you start to develop a relationship with them and they start to become more attractive to you. But then we kind of think that the reverse is impossible, that it's not possible to go from unattractive back to, or attractive to unattractive and back. Like it only works in one direction. And that's not true. If you have some things about your spouse that you are finding are unattractive, maybe, and I want to offer that you don't have that, it doesn't have to stay that way. It's not like your marriage is doomed. It's not that it can't be reversed. All that happens is that we need to become aware of why. And this is where we get stuck often. Again, I'm going to dive into this in the masterclass, but where we get stuck often in this is all of our judgment, right? When you have a spouse, somebody that you love so deeply and you want to be attracted to them, if there is something that's a little unattractive to you or unattractive that you're seeing in them, a lot of us have so much judgment on it. We're like, no, we try to talk ourselves out of it. No, it's not that bad. It's not a big deal. It's just a human. He's just a man. Like everybody's body does this. All dads gain weight after they hit 40, whatever it is. We'll try to talk ourselves out of how we're actually thinking and feeling. We'll try to convince ourselves that no, that unattractiveness really isn't there. And we'll try to shove it down because we don't want to feel that way about our spouse. Ladies, none of that is ever going to work. When you try to shove things down, all it does is make them stay there longer. Okay, if you come to this class, I'm going to teach you what to do, but mostly what you have to do is learn how to process that emotion and then let it go. But it comes with learning how to identify it. And that means getting out of your own way and learning how to see the things that are going on subconsciously that we're trying to resist, which is much easier with a coach. Okay. Line number 5 is that physical attractiveness is a justification for behavior. Okay. This was one that I see so often. There was actually a guy on Instagram. I don't even know who he is, but he's some kind of business guru. And he is, very physically fit and he's single and he makes lots of money. And I saw him on a podcast one time talking about how he's just unable to be in a monogamous relationship. He just isn't wired that way. And he fought it for years and he tried to willpower his way and he's just not wired that way. He's just attracted to all these women and that's just how he's built. And so he's just come to terms with it. And there was a woman on the podcast that was pushing back a little bit. And she's like, well, don't you think that's kind of a victim mentality to think that about yourself? Like you're a man of business, you're very physically fit, you're active, you've overcome a lot of these thoughts in other areas. How come you can't apply it here? And he got very defensive about it. And he was basically saying this, that your physical attraction to another person is what justifies your behavior. And here's where I see this. So again, in my relationship with my husband, that's kind of what he thought, right? He's like, well, I just am physically attracted to these women. Now, he wasn't doing anything with these women. I've had many clients whose husbands have had multiple affairs or different kinds of relationships with other women. And oftentimes we will use that physical attraction as a justification for our behavior in that way. But ladies, what I often see in the reverse with the women is, well, I no longer find him attractive, therefore I'm allowed to leave. Have you guys ever seen this? It's like, well, we just almost like how people talk about love. Don't get me started. Okay. Don't worry. We've talked about that before, but how they talk about love. Oh, we fell out of love. Like we just stopped loving each other. And so therefore we got divorced, right? We decided to quit it. We decided to end. Oh, I just don't like him anymore. I just find him really unattractive. There's no coming back from that. It's just how it is. And we use our physical attraction or our attraction to another person as a way to justify the choices that we make, almost as if they're not choices, as if they're just simply automatic consequences of the attraction. And that's not true. There are no automatic consequences of attraction. Okay. When you have a feeling of attraction because of a thought that you're thinking, or a feeling of unattraction because of a thought that you are thinking, all that needs to happen is you can just feel it. And most of the time, people are reacting to that feeling and then calling it a causation, saying that it's a consequence of something they don't have control of. And it's because they don't understand how to simply feel their feelings or understand where their feelings are coming from and not able to take a look at it from a step back, from a place where you're actually looking at your thoughts, looking at your feelings and being able to determine whether you want to keep them on purpose. Now, do you have to stay in a relationship where you're not attracted to your spouse? No, you don't. But I would offer that if that is the case, then you want to take a look at that from an objective standpoint and make that decision on purpose, not simply as a consequence of the unattraction. Okay? Does that make sense? All right, line number 6. You guys ready? This is the last one for today. Line number 6 is that your attraction to someone else is because of their level of attractiveness. Okay, I'm going to say it again. The lie is that your attraction to someone else is because of their level of attractiveness. Again, it kind of comes from this idea that attraction is out of our control. It's just like, oh, I just am attracted to them because they're so pretty. I just am really attracted to them because they're so beautiful. The way that I see this so much in our culture and in our society is with celebrity crushes. And this I'm going to dive into, ladies, in this masterclass, and I cannot wait. Celebrity crushes, okay? This is kind of a very common and very accepted way of being attracted to other people. It's just like, oh, isn't George Clooney? I mean, isn't it like People magazine that comes up with like the world's hottest man and woman every single year. And they just think it's like, oh my gosh, I just am attracted to this person because they're so attractive, because they have attained whatever measure of attractiveness I think is the most attractive. I can't control how I feel about them. They just are a really attractive person. And because so many people would agree generally, then I think I'm justified in feeling this way toward this person. Ladies, your attraction to another person has nothing to do with them and has everything to do with your thoughts and your feelings. It's not up to the other person. Okay. All right, ladies, I know that that was fast. I know that that was a lot in a short amount of time. Go back, listen to it again. And if you are ready to dive into this in your life, if you want to work on your attraction, your relationship with your spouse, if you want to take everything that we just talked about today, everything I just mentioned, and apply it to you, I want to invite you to come join me. It'll be next week, November 18th to the 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern every single day. That's when we're going to do this attraction masterclass. It's going to be live on Zoom. You're going to come join me. I'm going to teach something every day, leave tons of space for coaching so that I can work with you personally with whatever comes up for you on these calls. Not only will you get to join the whole week live, you will also get access to all of the material, all the content, all the calls for life. So you'll get access to all of the replays. So come join me live. But even if you can't make it live, if you know that you want this material, if you know you want help with this, make sure that you sign up so you can get access to all of the replays. Again, I'll put the link in the show notes. It's just $149 to join me for the whole week. You'll get access to all of it. We're going to take this to the next level. We're going to apply it to your life. And that is where the transformation happens. I can't wait to see you there, ladies. I love you, ladies, so much. And I'll see you guys next week on a brand new episode. So take care.